Remember high school, baby?
Where was that smile?
I don't want to smile.
It's not what you remember.
White, homie. White, real white. It's a Berkeley High tradition. This is black psychology. Interracial relationships. Like to promote whiteness. Obsessed with us.
Respect. What's kind of segregated? We got whites over there, blacks are all where you look around, and Mexicans over there.
I'm Native American Indian.
African American descent.
I'm Chicana.
I'm from Canton, China.
I'm white.
White boy is scared of me.
Sometimes the fear is worse than the reality.
I don't look at America as like, it's white America. No, it's all of us.
When the government looks at me, they don't look at me as an American. They look at the Africa in me.
Tonight on Frontline, go back to high school in school colors.
Funding for this special edition of Frontline was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you. Additional funding was provided by the Ford Foundation, the Schumann Foundation, the San Francisco Foundation, and the Sandler family.
The Berkeley Plan, Immigration 68, is reality today as Berkeley became the first major American city to achieve total integration in its public schools. As one Berkeley mother put it this morning, I think it's going to be a wonderful experience for the children. I only wish that I had the same opportunity when I was young.
It's been 40 years since the Brown decision, and 25 years since Berkeley became one of the first school districts in the nation to voluntarily desegregate its schools. Today, when large numbers of white students have fled from urban public schools, Berkeley High has maintained as diverse a student body as you can find anywhere. This is a story of a year in the life of a school and its students as they struggle with racial identity and the legacy of school integration.
Turn your face towards the camera. A little bit more. Good, right there. Good. How about a smile? No smile today. Okay, stay right there. Good. A smile, man, looking happy.
The class of '94, from a high school that is 39% white, 35% African American, 10% Asian and Pacific Islander, 9% Chicano Latino, and 7% mixed race. Berkeley High is an ethnic microcosm of urban America. Every fall for decades, Toga Day has been a tradition for Berkeley High seniors. Last year, Toga Day was renamed Ethnicity Day.
Hey, vote for me for homecoming queen!
People got upset about Toga Day, saying that only white people could appreciate it, so then
Everybody said togas were
the ethnic day.
Eurocentric.
I'm not Greek. It's a Berkeley High tradition. It's always been Toga Day.
They should really read up on what the Greeks did, because they were thieves and robbers, and they were just thieves and vandals. So if they're identifying with that, that just really shows the truth about what the school is about. And you see that we have our Greek gods right here that we have to be below every day. So, this is just little psychological effects of things, So.
Ethnicity is, I guess you just dress based on your heritage, based on your culture. I feel that this is the appropriate attire for an African woman. This is Africa. This is little Africa to me. That's Europe. I don't care to go over there. I stay here, maybe snack bar, something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah, I dress like this because, you know, I'm politically active, right? So I'm Chicano, right? That's what and we're here to show our pride and just, you know, kick it together, you know, the raza, all the Mexicans and the Latinos here at school.
Well, it's kind of segregated. We have whites over there, blacks are all where you look around here, and Mexicans over there. In other words, we call it France, Africa, and Mexico. You know, but you know, don't trip though.
Hi, I'm Isioma, and I'm partly Nigerian and partly
In a school where students are often separated by race, some 40 seniors were recruited by the film team for a year-long class in video journalism. The students were chosen to mirror the ethnic diversity of the school.
My name is Jeff Marie here. Most people know me as G. I'm really into like writing things, stories. I like to write screenplays. I like every aspect of movie making, the camera work, the gaffer, the best boy. Directing is my specialty.
Hola, mi nombre es Renato Casares. Soy mexicano salvadoreño. Soy también presidente de nuestra clase aquí en Berkeley High de 1994. And for all of you who don't speak Spanish, my name is Renato Casares. I like my name to be pronounced correctly. It's not Renato, okay? And I'm senior co-class president with Alex Cusson.
I'm Xochitl Rios, and I'm Chicana, and I'm really active in promoting unity between the Chicano, Latino, Mexicano community.
My name is Eddie Mezenchescu. I'm white, real white, and like to promote whiteness, and slightly conservative. Trying to survive, not doing too well. I'm getting there, and like to see what other perspectives, but trying to get by.
My name is Arthur Yi. I'm from Canton, China, and I was here for almost 15 years. And I enjoy riding, mountain biking, and so on.
My name is Faith, and I'm part Native American Indian, part Afro-American, part Russian, part French, and I'm Jewish.
Can you hear the difference? Say something.
The students were trained to produce videotapes to explore the issues of race and ethnicity at Berkeley High.
So this is our presentation on segregation. We chose it because it's obviously a very current problem at Berkeley High School. And so here it goes.
I think that there's segregation both socially and educationally here. Socially, you can see it outside during lunch in the courtyard. On the steps, most of the students are white, and to the east side of the building, most of the students are black. There's some mingling, but it seems that in general, the white kids hang out with the white kids and the black kids with the black kids.
Well, I think there's definitely segregation in the school. I mean, everything is segregated. I mean, you come here and it's nothing in the middle. It's just black, white, Asian. It's like there's like little groups, and it's really, really hard.
Berkeley High is like the real world, and real world is totally segregated. No such thing as integration when it comes to America. We all want to be with our own, and that's the way humans are.
I think it has to mostly do with tracking, because people aren't integrated in the classes, they're not going to meet each other.
We have tracked classes, and as it turns out, most of the students in the upper track end up being white, and most of the students in the middle track end up being black.
One theorem says if f of x equals mx plus b is increasing, if you know all that, then prove the following, that m is greater than 0. That's one if.
Like schools across the country, Berkeley High groups students according to academic ability in a system known as tracking. The highest track AP, or advanced placement classes, are 85% white and Asian.
Mx plus b is increasing.
You need 2 sheets for today. Who got both sheets? You got the warm-up. Okay.
The lowest track math and science classes are 85% African American and Chicano Latino.
Did you get both for today?
School-wide, the D and F rate for these students is 3 times higher than that for whites and Asians.
I think it's understandable if minority students think that tracking is the cause for their not being able to achieve higher levels in academic subjects. I think that is a an easy target to shoot at. Teachers do not want to have track classes. We would rather have heterogeneous classes where everybody, regardless of their race, is being taught the same material. If it doesn't say square, it says cube. What are you doing now?
I don't know.
What does a cube look like?
Cube.
Yeah, cube of sugar. It's just flat?
Yeah, it's like a flat box.
A cube?
Yeah.
You go to the store, go to a restaurant, and you drop cubes of sugar into your cup of coffee. What does a cube look like? We're fighting a history of low self-esteem, low achievement levels, disinterest in school. Is it flat? A lack of motivation for why they want to be in school. Like a cookie? Flat?
Yeah, I can't think.
Historically, Berkeley High School has been an elitist school. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they adopted the philosophy of everybody is able to and should go to college. Everybody is equal, which is a good philosophy. It turns out realistically, however, in my own opinion, that not everybody wants to or should go to college.
At one point, Stephen was saying that both God and the Virgin Mary seem far away. But does it seem that he draws more comfort from the Virgin Mary than he draws from God? And what would be the reasons for that?
Like, God can't forgive people who've committed like the mortal sins, but Mary, and he sends them to hell. He makes a decision.
David Bai has been teaching at Berkeley High for 9 years. His British literature class is an AP course for college prep students.
Is this really Jesus that I'm eating, or is this Jesus' blood that I'm drinking?
I love teaching this class because I think some of the better intellectual discussions in the high school go on here. It does not draw a diversity or a wide diversity of students.
He has all these sexual things going on because of what he's just done, and yeah, the lewd kiss and stuff. And then there's the image of the Virgin Mary and being her knight.
I think that the authors that we read, because they're all white, tend to alienate some of the non-white kids.
And so maybe, by asking just these little questions.
I should probably, go around to bright kids of other ethnicities and say, I'd really like you in my course. But I also have to convince them why they should spend the whole semester studying the writers from one country. Just to say that this is a Western culture, I'm not sure that that answer is sufficient anymore, or that it was ever sufficient.
Louis, with no book, no pen, no paper, what do you want to learn in this class?
It is. Well, I want, whatever you can teach, I want to learn.
How are you going to learn it? Is this the way to? Let me ask you this: is this the way to come prepared?
No.
Marie Roberts teaches a low-track English class.
But I got more than some people.
But you want something out of this, Mr. Migrating.
I got into teaching because I saw what was happening in the school system, and it was appalling to me. Many students of color were having problems that were, just cultural conflicts with the way the system was trying to teach them, and I felt like I could do something about that.
Charles, what was your problem with the assignment?
Just writing it. Yeah.
What was your problem?
Writing it.
No, what was the problem, the plan that you tried to change?
What to write.
Today's assignment was to write an essay about changing attitudes.
I'm trying to start liking white people.
So you're trying to change your opinion about other people?
Yeah.
What time period did you give yourself to change it?
I ain't changed yet. I still
No, when you had to plan how much time you thought it would take you?
Oh, I don't know, man. Yeah.
Charles, come here.
I don't think tracking works, and I think there are different types of tracking, and sometimes when it might work. But what happens in modern-day tracking systems is, depending upon which level you're on, the expectations for what you can become and who you can become are very different. Now going back to your plan. Bye. Excuse me. Go out the door.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Go. Be sorry tomorrow. Monday when I see your face again. Go on. I'll send you a referral. Charles, I'll tell you later. Go. Go to your counselor.
You keep talking crazy when I don't say nothing to your fat ass punk.
Where am I supposed to go?
You right, Miss.
Go to your counselor.
Can I refer? Because all she's going to do is come back and get one.
Well, go there and cool off. And if she sends you back to get one, by then I'll have it written. This class does not work. This school does not work. Your lives do not work if you do not, number one, respect yourselves, and number two, respect each other. We're sitting here trying to talk about change and how to make a plan and how to make something work in your lives. And you guys are spending more time putting each other down and being rude and disrespecting yourselves than you are working on how to make your life work. Now, you can do that for the rest of your lives, but you won't pass a class, and you won't get a job, and you won't have a house, and you won't have a bank account, and you won't drive a car, and you won't have a family that respects you, and you won't raise children that graduate from high school, and the system that you're a part of will continue to stay in the circular motion that it is, and nothing will ever change. So make a decision.
I think that's the reason why we're segregated during lunch, after school and all that, because we don't have classes together. How can we interact if we don't have classes together?
And I think by definition, the tracking system was a segregated and a segregating system.
At Berkeley High, we have a good African American Studies department, but I think a lot of African American students are getting the message that they can't have pride in African American and at the same time like other races. And then I think a lot of people in the courtyard are starting to show contempt for the way they're being treated by a lot of the African American students at this school.
This is the only high school in the country that has an African American Studies department. Unfortunately, it is also served as a propagandistic vehicle and sometimes a separatist vehicle.
Respect!
Respect!
Self-respect enables you.
Self-respect enables you
to be in control of your behavior.
to be in control of your behavior.
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Knowledge about yourself.
Knowledge about
Berkeley High School's African American Studies Department formed during the civil rights and black power movements of the late 1960s.
And give you some control.
and give you some control
over the situations that would occur in your life.
over the situations that will occur in your life.
Imani.
Imani.
Faith.
Faith.
All in the power of ourselves. Anybody got some of that?
The African American Studies Department takes pride in teaching students on black history. People try to attack it, those that have never been within it, because they say, well, this is only focused about this, and this is only focused about that. And how can you just have a class that just focuses on the black? And it's because, it's simple, because you don't want to focus on the black.
Separation versus integration.
The department offers an Afrocentric curriculum and 15 courses in subjects ranging from black economics to Swahili. 85% of the students in these classes are African American.
All right? The battle in the black community between separation and integration started out at the end of slavery as a battle between repatriation and Americanization. The idea that black people should go back to Africa, the idea that black people should stay and become a part of America. Integration in America is white supremacy.
Hodari Davis was hired 2 years ago and is one of 6 teachers in the department.
Integration in America means that one group of
In the majority of high schools in the country, the curriculum doesn't reflect the students. Therefore, many of the students who do not see themselves in the material end up getting kicked out of school because they don't attend class. They skip class because they're not interested. They get F's on their tests because they're not interested. It's not that they can't study. It's that they look at the material and they're like, why do I want to study that? Why do I want to know that? It's not relevant to me understanding myself.
Now, we can stay with inferiority if y'all want to stay with inferiority.
Just for a little while.
Or we could go to something else.
Let's go to something else.
I just want to go back to what Ty said about black people not being able to function if they don't speak proper English, if they speak a black dialect.
Black children aren't being taught in grade school. That's my point. Where proper grammar is, and they need that, but they aren't being taught that. So, a simple sentence like, "We are going to the park." But instead, they're never taught. No, isn't that, wouldn't that be considered proper grammar? But instead, they'd say, "We is going to the park today." That's not proper grammar.
You sitting there rolling around, you know all this proper language, and you walk around, well, we're about to go to the park, and somebody say, yo, kid, we about to go shoot some ball, let's go do some hoops. You be like, huh?
When you want to get ahead in a society, you need every asset and every tool available. And English, not speaking proper or standard grammar is not an asset.
Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Huey Newton, they didn't speak, what you want to call, functioning grammar. they functioning as well. You ain't got to speak the cracker language to live in the cracker world.
Language and grammar and reading goes hand in hand. You can't separate the two. And all of the people that you just mentioned, every time I've heard them speak, they never came to the podium. I is going to talk today to you about this.
I think black people don't need white people. We have to learn to start accepting ourselves for ourselves, our features, our culture, our language, the way we look for ourselves, and not to look towards other people to define ourselves for ourselves.
I think that integration was the second worst thing that ever happened to black men next to slavery. Because when we were segregated, we had our communities, we had our stores. Integration was never good. It drained black people of all their money, and their pride.
I try to have people who are self-thinkers and who are confident to express their own ideas and their own concepts without feeling as if they're constantly under the gun, so to speak, or they're constantly in threat of having to shut up because what they're saying is considered to be quote-unquote wrong.
It's not even in your reality. Because if you deal with it here, then you're going to get in trouble. And I don't want to see you get in trouble.
We fill a role of parent, of brother, of teacher. For many of them, we're some of the most positive influences that they have in their lives.
And as of 1981, the median income of blacks was 56% of that of whites. Over 50% of all black children are growing up in poverty today, and according to the social scientists, they don't see any way out for our children in the future. If black men are being systematically pushed out, how can a black man command the respect of a black woman when he has nothing in himself to hold on to? Look at what we're saying, brother and sister. With all of this going on in your state, you should welcome me like the return of Jesus Christ to this state.
Why do you think Farrakhan's so controversial?
What he's saying, I see that every day, and I see more about what he's saying. Like, he gives you more and more information about it. That's what you see every day, and you peep it out more.
America is the type of place where everybody wants to do everything together. Let's buy our cars, let's do this together, let's support our country. And if there's one person going against that, they're the person that's going to stand out. And that's what Farrakhan is.
Just write a little something in your notebook about what you thought of Louis Farrakhan in the context of what the Muslims want, what their program is, what their whole flavor. Thank you, Yael. Y'all have a nice day. Continue to do your research. Research. Research.
Unfortunately, sometimes they get the message that you shouldn't identify with America. You are African, and you shouldn't take too many European classes. Don't be American. America's always been for the white person. You want to be African. And then the kids have to go participate in this society. How do they do that when they've learned to become so angry?
I think the departments do contribute to a form of segregation, but I think that's part of, developing an awareness and developing pride. And I think for the most part, you do that by being with people of like mind or like passion.
I think the only time there isn't segregation is the classes that have like assigned seating where they don't really have a choice. Because I think if the choice is given, it's going to be segregation.
I'm not sure if it can be resolved.
Any questions, comments for him?
When you have an ethnic studies department or African studies or like Asian studies, Chicano studies, where it's voluntary, then a lot of the Chicanos go over there and learn about their culture and stuff like that. But I think that assimilation is also important because other cultures have to learn about you too, because you won't be represented in mainstream culture unless you have the mainstream culture also learn about your values too.
I just think that before we can even learn about each other, we have to learn about oneself, and I don't think that that's even happening. I don't think that's happening also, because there's a lot of people. I mean, you can learn about every other race, but if you learn about your own race, then you can be lost, confused, or whatever.
If you have different people studying their own culture, then you don't have a melting pot, and you have a ghettoized America, which ends up erupting, as you see in Southern California, where you have the Mexicans studying only Mexicans and hanging out with only Mexicans, and that's why you need a common culture.
They're not studying
Don't interrupt me. You need a common culture to connect all of these people. You need a common culture to connect all of these people, and that is the culture that is doing it. That is the culture that is doing it. That's the culture that connects Italians and Polish and English and blacks and whites and Asians, and that's why we have to study it.
You guys go to class or walk out?
Where to walk out at, Mr. Henderson?
Jim Henderson is Berkeley's 7th principal in 15 years. He spent most of his career in a predominantly white suburban school. 3 years ago, Henderson took on the multicultural challenges of Berkeley High.
The haves and the have-nots. For years, that's what Berkeley High has been. If you're in the haves group, it's one of the best places in America to go to high school. And if you're in the have-not, it's like a lot of places. It's just full of failure.
Overall, the school Henderson came to has always had a high academic record, with 80% of its graduates going on to college. Berkeley High has a very low dropout rate, but the dropout rate for students of color is twice as high as that for white students. And in the last few decades, the racial composition of the school has changed from 60% white to 60% non-white.
Gentlemen.
What's up?
You know our 7th period new rule?
I understand that you messing with us.
All right, well, we gotta get things under control here. 7th period, a lot of our staff really didn't understand kids of different races. And one of the reasons they weren't successful with them is they really didn't know how to teach them or how to work with them. And that was obvious to me, even though I didn't know.
We're talking about inclusion, and it's a very recent phenomenon.
When Henderson arrived, Berkeley's teaching staff was 80% white. In his first 2 years, Henderson hired 26 teachers of color, more than doubling their presence on the faculty.
If we ask people in the United States, is anybody racist? Most people in the United States, no. Anybody prejudiced? Nah. There are penalties for admitting to this stuff. And so we're taught, don't admit to it.
This year, Henderson organized prejudice reduction workshops, which were mandatory for all faculty and staff.
Chink, Jap, Nip, Gook, China doll,
Nigger, colored, Negro, gal,
white,
Queer,
Nazi,
hunky,
White bitch.
Violent, criminal, dangerous, hostile, loud, angry, have an attitude.
It's really clear to me that the Achilles heel at Berkeley High School is our inability to have harmony between races. And that's translated in lots of different ways, but until we can solve that problem, I'm not sure we can deal with all the other problems, because every time we deal with other problems, it usually is based in the lack of harmony.
Power! Power! Get me
On Mexican Independence Day, the Chicano-Latino students stage a walkout, demanding more Chicano-Latino teachers and the formation of a Chicano-Latino Studies department at Berkeley High.
Chicano! Power! Chicano! Power! Chicano! Power!
And I want somebody to teach me about my gente, about my people, about my history. All right, it's fine to learn about European history, about everything else, but I also want to learn about myself, you know, so that's all I have to say.
What I heard is 150 people signed up for Chicano literature, and they only offered one class period. You know, 150 people signed up for self-defense class, and they offered 3 class periods. I mean, what does that show? I mean, when you're interested in learning and literature and that kind of stuff, I mean, that's what they should support. That's what sends us to college. This is our raza, this is our comunidad, you know? We have to keep it strong. Que viva la raza! Que viva!
Personally, for me, I think a Chicano Latino department, I wouldn't want it to be separated. I would want it to, you know, be with open arms for people of all races and cultures to come in, you know, and learn. Like, we want you to come learn about what we have to offer and the knowledge that rests in our people.
¡Viva los indígenas! ¡Que viva! ¡Que viva México! ¡Que viva!
If you actually look back, you know, in history, it says, you know, that your ancestral people discovered that they knew so much about astronomy. They were an advanced civilization. They built pyramids. You know, they discovered the concept of zero. You know, so I mean, it's not to put any other race down, but just so you can say, you know, I'm not no worse than any race. I could be better, or, you know, I could be the same, but I'm not worse.
We gotta educate ourselves as raza. We gotta be one. Not divided into, oh, I'm Mexicano, okay, I'm Chicano, I'm Latino, I'm this, I'm that. Bullshit, we're all raza, we're all united, okay? And we just gotta show this damn world that we are united, we're one, and we're not gonna get no one let us down, that's it.
Lots of people got mad at me for not going on the walkout. And then they kept asking me why and why I couldn't do that, and I told them that my education came first, before any walkout. And then they would get mad. They would say, oh, you're not a Mexican American. They think I've sold out to their race.
Renato Casares and Alex Cusson were elected senior class co-presidents. Their 2 opponents were both African American.
Some people would ask me, why are you running with a white person? And I would explain to them that he's not white, that he is Latino. He looks white. I mean, people just don't know that there are blonde, blue-eyed people in Latin America. And I just would explain to them, and then they would have a different view of him. And they would say, yes, I would vote for you guys.
This looks all right. So 2 bathrooms in here are locked, and they look like they haven't been cleaned in days.
Dryers?
It's one of the things we promised during our
It was a campaign promise. We called ourselves on it, so we wanted to do it. Just try to make a difference. I mean, if we can't even get toilet paper in the bathrooms of Berkeley High, like, what can we do?
I mean, I'll write down some of the stuff that you say now, and I'll ask the head custodian.
But I mean, we don't even have to fix the hand dryers. Maybe we can just get paper towels and stuff. My brother has taught me a lot of things. He went through Berkeley High, and he knows how the whole system works. It's all about connections.
When I was in junior high, like, I used to be involved.
No. Oh, yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Thomasine Wilson has been teaching in the history department for 32 years. She also heads Berkeley High's Staff Senate, a group that is often at odds with Jim Henderson.
Okay. He dreamed all of that, is right.
I'll work on it.
I want you to get back to the point, the original point from which we have strayed, and that is your sense of how people in authority here, teachers, counselors, administrators, classified people you have to deal with, how they either make you feel okay about who you are or don't.
I think that teachers sometimes prejudge their students before they come into class. Like me being African American or black, I come into class and the teacher, like it's a new teacher, they assume that well, she's African American, she's probably not serious. And then until you take your first test or until you take some kind of test in the classroom, they're going to think, well, she's not serious, and you have to sort of prove to them that you're ready to learn.
I think it's very hard if you're not a person of color.
Exactly.
Were you gonna?
Exactly.
Well, you're my soulmate over there, Ethan. And I'm not saying, and I'm not. Scary, isn't it? No, listen. No. All right, you guys, hold it for a sec. And I don't want to lay a trip on white kids, because I think a lot of trips are laid on white kids at Berkeley High School. But if you're not a person of color, it's sometimes hard to understand how people of color respond to situations.
I think here in Berkeley, I don't know if I should say this because I'm white, but from where I see it, from my friends see it, no matter what color they are, is that people tend to like, racism here is a buzzword. If you say racist, all of a sudden you're right, you're pointing the finger, that you can, and nobody questions that.
Do you understand that the way you look gives you steps up that other people don't have? Chris, do you understand?
I'm
Have they
definitely
talked about
biased, but from where I see society,
Okay.
it's not like the oppressive system that's super racist on everybody. I mean,
Okay.
the way I see it.
Okay. And you say,
What are you trying to explain to me?
we deal with some parts of our student body very successfully. And I'm talking here about a white, upper middle class kids who have academic ambitions. We don't deal, I think, with our middle group very successfully. They're kind of lost in the shuffle. And here you have all kinds of kids represented. And I'm not sure that we deal with the ones who are suffering most educationally and socioeconomically and ethnically successfully. We're working at it, but I don't think that we've hit it yet.
Berkeley is a city of 100,000 people, historically divided by its geography. The hills are mostly white and affluent. Berkeley High, the city's only public high school, lies midway between the hills and the flatlands, home to most African American and Chicano-Latino communities. A social geography that has changed little in the last 40 years.
That would have those? He's in Oakland. Only if somebody...
Remember, 1958 was before the civil rights explosion of the 60s. 1958 was before the Vietnam War. 1958 was the Eisenhower era. You weren't, as an African-American kid, necessarily expected to go to college. It was more about getting a blue-collar job.
And, remember, I was born and raised in Berkeley and came from South Berkeley.
Yeah.
Don't white folks lived in South Berkeley?
It was against the law. There were covenants that would not allow blacks to buy property east of Grove, Martin Luther King in the 40s and 50s. That's right. That was real. There were covenants.
Don't you dare put me in this thing. I didn't have anything. I mean,
You're not guilty. No.
That is my view of going to high school. I never realized.
Do you realize that the only time we went to the hills was up Spruce to get to Tilden Park?
Well,
never stopping. And do you know that we would be nervous doing that?
Honey, if I'd done that, you could have come to my house anytime.
That shit's too late
the
now.
Thing is,
35 years later, you tell me it would have been this. It was all right.
This is what we run with the formations now, okay? We're running with emotion. When nobody makes an issue of it, it's not an issue. With all the polarization and the segregation that sometimes goes on at Berkeley High, our kids find a way to gel together. Team to team is always before the eye, before the individual. So we have a lot of black kids and white kids that hang out together, walk home together, do things like that together. Because good things happen when you're together, to play as a team. Go! Go! There it is.
Like schools across the country, Berkeley High comes together during homecoming week to celebrate school spirit and unity. The high point of the rally is the announcement of this year's homecoming queen.
I was the first Chicana Latina ever in the history of Berkeley High to win homecoming queen, and I think that in itself is just a statement right there. I feel really proud, you know.
We'll be okay. We've learned. I guess you ache for the seniors, you know, because this is it.
Good season, coach. Good season.
All right. All right. I'll see you in there, Joey. Jackers be back. 94.
Now let's drop it in the bow, up to the stern. Nice and high.
Crew in itself is a prep sport. Majority of it is done by whites. The full payment for 1 year for doing crew is about $700. I think that's the most expensive sport in the school. They gave me a scholarship for last year and this year. They weren't used to having someone who's poor. They weren't used to that. I think that the way they viewed me was, you know, he's a kind of a poor kid coming up from the ranks and so on. I don't hang out with anyone, really. I'm kind of by myself, a loner in a way. There's the whites, there's blacks, there's Hispanics, we have everyone here. And you know, it's a lot of, I mean, I got caught up, when I was a freshman here, I got caught up in a lot of fights and so on. And, you know, since I was white, it seemed like I guess I was a white student, I got to, if I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, I got jumped quite a few times. That was frustrating. But it doesn't bother anymore. It used to instill a lot of hate in me.
Good. A 2, 36, a 3, nail it. 1.
Now that I do a sport, I get my anger out doing that sport. I really succeed at that sport because I have so much anger and so much hate, but I direct it in a positive way at least.
Back and squeeze. 9, 10 is it. Come on, Berkeley!
You know, with my mother. She helped me a lot. Since my mother was Russian, I tended to have her views and more old-fashioned views, and that kind of clashes with those views in Berkeley.
I would say things happening now in education, at least in most public schools. I don't like it. Too much premeditated thinking, I would say, so it steers children's thinking in mostly one direction. And I'm talking about politically correct things, which I'm absolutely not fond of. What it promotes, that kind of separation by this is black, this is white, black power, so-called, we were oppressed. What it promotes, that promotes ignorance, and ignorance promotes racism.
The bad news about Berkeley High can often make the papers, and the plain old everyday run-of-the-mill news about who got a very high 5 on an AP chemistry test tends not to be front-page news.
At 8th grade Parents' Night, Berkeley High promotes its academic program to incoming parents. Berkeley's academic reputation attracts many students from private schools.
And in 8th grade, I was deciding whether or not to go to public or private school, and I was kind of weighing my options, looking at all the private schools in the area and looking at all the public schools, probably what you're doing right now. And I chose Berkeley High, obviously. I've taken extensive photography classes. So my mom has some of my work displayed over there, Berkeley High students. I've been able to take 3 AP Sciences, which isn't available at most schools. I've taken AP Chemistry, AP Biology, and now I'm taking AP Physics along with an AP Calculus class.
I'm looking at all of my options, and Berkeley High looks pretty good. I thought it would be dangerous, I guess, but from the people I've talked to, it really wasn't, and I was really impressed with the courses that they offer.
The freshmen are very lucky.
Well, I've heard that from the junior high level up that the bathrooms are dangerous, things like that, that they have to know where they're going and what they're doing, and that they don't mess with certain kids, and they just stick to their own business. And then they'll probably be okay, especially girls. But there are lots of stories out there.
The real questions that I have and the other people that I was just speaking with have is that what about for the children who don't naturally take to that intensive and that varied and exciting of a program?
Freud is the basis for the whole course. He's the beginner. He lived in Vienna, and he became fairly well known by 1900, and one of the people that came to work with him was Carl Jung.
Eric Anderson has been teaching in the history department for 35 years and has closely followed Berkeley High's ongoing struggle with integration.
In Vienna was Alfred Adler. You probably haven't heard of him.
You know my generation there, right? And we're basically integrationists, and we had a fight to get to stop discrimination, you know, in housing and in hiring and in access to universities and jobs and everything else. I mean, you know, that was our struggle.
So they're kind of the original 3 founding fathers of theoretical psychology: Freud, Jung, and Adler.
The problem with what happened in the late 60s was that people went off in their own directions, and so it looked like it was responding to the needs of a lot of different people, but it was doing that in a very separatist kind of way.
Freud thought that most of the psyche was unconscious, and very little was conscious. So, in a sense, what we study is the unconscious mind.
Under the European construct, we all fit under Freud's model of this is the thought for all people. One culture as superordinate to other cultures that are subordinate. Distinct equivalent as opposed to superordinate and subordinate, distinct equivalent. That means that these cultures exist distinct from each other, but yet can be equal, can all exist on the same level. And the metaphor I heard last night in this master's class was, instead of a melting pot, let's have a tossed salad, where everybody retains their own individual flavor, but we all exist in one bowl together. What would the salad dressing represent in this tossed salad metaphor? But some way to wash everything into one taste. So you can no longer
One flavor, basically. You
feel
won't
the
have your
flavor
own
of
flavor.
the other distinct. There you go. There you go.
That's what American
French
is.
dressing,
Salad
Italian
salad
A salad with American salad dressing, huh?
Exactly. With ranch dressing.
With some ranch dressing.
Exactly. White.
Integration that supposedly exists in the schools doesn't even exist in society. I mean, white people live in one community, black people live in another, Chicano people live in another, Asian people live in another. America is segregated. So to say that the problem with schools now is integration didn't work because there's segregation still I mean, America is not integrated. As an African student, or as a student who finds it hard to relate culturally to the material that you're reading, when you try to identify yourself in that material, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. If you try to identify yourself in Darwin, black man, you're going to find that you're not even human on Darwin's scale. So the effect that Darwin's theories, they're going to have a different effect on you than they would have on somebody who says, oh, I'm in the higher order. You feel what I'm saying? All right.
The African American Studies Department, I think, has been largely separatist in its influence on the campus. So instead of having African American history and culture available to the entire student body, it's been almost entirely just for black kids.
You know I live by myself.
Well, until this dies down, you can come stay with me, and we're gonna take care of it with him. He's not gonna put his hands on you no more. And if he does, I swear I will make him pay. This is not gonna happen anymore. I mean, we can always find the sex, sister. It's everywhere.
Okay.
But mental, I'm here.
Okay.
You know, we're not going for it no more. We're not going for it no more.
African American drama is challenging for me. I'm always aware of how I'm behaving, never quite feeling relaxed or at home. The air is always thick with black culture, and it's in this class that I felt the most animosity from my classmates.
Hey, and all the homeboys, come over here. I need to talk to y'all. All right, this is what we're going to talk about. Y'all friends and stuff that be just hanging out and not really being that serious about what school really means and the responsibility that we have as men towards our friendship. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do that skit today.
I looked at it and I said, she should all have gone to Berkeley High for 2 years and not have taken advantage of African American Studies Department. That would be really sad, in my opinion. Because I want to learn to be less ignorant, because I feel that's where prejudice starts, is with ignorance.
I mean, a lot of brothers in the community don't have their daddies there to tell them about the reality of what school is going to do for us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is your life. You either going to play in the game and be a player, or you going to be played.
It's very interesting to be the minority, but it's not always the most comfortable.
I think a lot of students don't feel comfortable coming in to that department and taking classes. And I don't think that's positive, because I think kids should be taking classes in that department, because I think there is a rich curriculum there that I think is important for students of other races and other cultures to understand.
If you come into my African history class, and I have 98% black students, many people feel that something is wrong with that. I mean, you know, white students don't feel comfortable with that. And I was like, really? So I wonder how when forced desegregation started, I wonder how black students have been feeling since then in America, since the Brown decision.
We have a lot of kids at Berkeley High School who deny they're American. I'm not American, because I'm African. Nothing is African about you, but I'm African. And I think that's a real mistake, to teach kids that they're African and not American.
Now we have a lot of images around the room. We fit it out in African gear, and that's important, because today we're called African American. Okay? Now the American part denotes the nation that you live in, the place that you live. but the African part is your essence.
It's Ethiopian food. You put it on top of that. You eat it with the bread.
The African American Studies Department celebrates Kwanzaa the week before Christmas. The holiday is based on African traditions and rituals and was created in the United States during the late 60s as an African American alternative to Christmas.
So we're about to call out names of different ancestors, and we would like you to say Ashe after each name. And the first name that we shall call El Haj Malik El Shabazz, and we say
Ashe. W.E.B. Du Bois,
and we say
Ashe.
Martin Luther King Jr., and we say
Ashe. Thurgood Marshall,
and we say
Ashe.
And we would like you to stand up and hold hands. And now, a moment of silence for the ancestors. Thank you.
School Colors. We'll be right back. Go back to high school with Frontline.
Go stall for stall. You can see it's pretty much an unending job. So what I gotta do is put this stuff on thick. So therefore, when they come in to tag it again, they'll have a fresh canvas. We wanna keep them with a fresh canvas and keep the school looking good. Number one priority, keep the school looking good.
I'd like to invite one student from each of the nations.
Berkeley High holds school-wide assemblies to promote awareness of different ethnic groups. Today is Indigenous Peoples Day.
The Black nation and the European American nation. Beautiful Grandmother Earth, we pray for peace and unity and understanding for all the nations that come to school here.
During the prayer for peace, a fight breaks out in the balcony between Chicano and Latino students. The fight is part of an ongoing feud between American-born Chicanos and Latino immigrants.
You guys live with your parents? You live with your parents? No. Your parents know, but there's my parents here. But we're not going to go in there. There you go. We're going to go to my office. There you go.
Guys, you got to get out of the hallway.
Why we gotta get out?
Get
This is C building, second floor. We need assistance.
Guys, away.
Hurry up, please.
1, 2, 3.
4 kids that we're not going to release until they're released to an adult. If we can't get a hold of an adult, we will have the police officers either take them home or take them to the station until their parents come and get them.
And 2 of them were concerned may be carrying arms. So I think, and one of them wasn't directly involved. And this is not the first time that I've heard rumors from the girls who, know what's going on and are more willing to talk about it because they're more concerned about people's safety.
Okay.
Can't complain about police response.
Out. 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 Excuse me, please.
You guys supposed to have passes? Excuse me. You know what? We're not gonna play this little game, okay? We're going upstairs. We are going upstairs. You worried about a camera. I'm not worried about a camera. I'm worried about you going to class. Watch your mouth.
If there's any opportunity for you to stay at all, it'll be on a contract that if you miss a class, you'll be gone.
Senior class co-president Renato Casares has been missing classes. He is faced with a transfer to either independent study or Berkeley's continuation school.
Consistent and fair to everybody. The best thing for your son might be to go to independent study, get his credits, and make sure he can start his second semester of his senior year in a place where he is guaranteed to graduate as long as he passes his classes.
But that's just adding to the problem. Let's say...
It requires some more effort out of you. Is that what you're saying?
No, not requiring more effort. It'll add more work to me next semester.
Yeah, well... See, one of the things that's not being heard here is what was your responsibility in terms of your being in class? And, is there a consequence to that? There is a consequence to your behavior in life at all times.
You know what? I'm thinking about this. I think here in this school is more discrimination, maybe racism. I want to know how many Americans, white, go over there. I want to know that.
No, you're right. It's a smaller
because
percentage.
I think it's racism here.
Percentage.
I think here is racism. And I don't like that because everything has to be equal.
Where is your class? That's good. You need to head there right now.
Did I tell you I was going?
Ladies, this is period 4. Do you have a class? Okay, would you please go quickly without socializing?
What you want us to run? We can't run in the hallways.
That's right. Get out of the hallways, please. Let's go.
Mr. Bill, you have a man here that's forgotten which way his classroom is or what class he's in. He's just wondering.
I do have a class. My class is right down there in H209 down there.
Who's your counselor?
Miss Jones.
Miss who?
Miss Jones.
Miss Jones?
No, wait, what's her name?
He doesn't belong here.
I do go here. My name is
You need to get him arrested.
I go here.
He does not go to the school. He doesn't even know who his counselor is.
I don't know her name. I do go to this school.
How long you been going here?
He does. He goes to this school, Mr. Bill. I know I go here.
How long you been going here?
About 2-3 months now.
And you don't know who your counselor is?
No, I don't know her name.
But we're just not going to deal with S3 and every time it comes up. The Senate recess will come Monday. On Monday we're starting S6, no more in S3. I'm sorry, Senator Campbell. But every time
No, I'll explain later.
Can I get a drink of water?
Hello, Olivia? Good morning, what's up, man? What you doing? Hey, can you get ready, yeah? And I'll pick you up, I guess, a little before 8 o'clock. Hey, I love you. Hey.
I live with 4 or 5 college students. We live in an apartment complex here in Berkeley.
Yeah. I'm wearing your shirt, eh? Huh? Oh, the shirt is ironed. Besides the love handles hanging, the shirt is ironed by Ray right here.
And who washed it?
And Gonzalo washed my shirt.
And it's my shirt, and it's my shirt. So it's called teamwork in the house.
Yeah, this teamwork, eh? Without
and the shoes they passed down from my dad.
Yeah, I think it's gonna work. I don't know. I hope so. It's worked this long.
It's worked this long, huh?
Where's your date? Over there. Come on, introduce your date now.
Okay, she took it off, then we put something on, and then she
took it right back off.
Wait.
I just took it off. That's just it.
What color's your lipstick?
You have a lot of bruises on you, eh?
I know.
Give it to him. Who's that?
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean?
I wouldn't even think about going with a white girl because that's just not me. That's not the way I was raised. Maybe because of my mother's views. My mother's views are very strong. My mother believed that how can you date somebody that will oppress you?
I think it's just like the people who can't accept interracial relationships. They have to open their minds up a little bit because I think it's not a matter of what you look like on the outside. So it's definitely a matter of what you are on the inside.
I think the most problems I had was when I went with the African American guy, and most of that was coming from his African American female friends. There was a lot of like, you know, he shouldn't do that, or it's not her place to go with him because she's taking our men.
I think that our society is obsessed with this. I mean, it is, it colors every aspect of our life. It has to do with our politics. It has to do with our assemblies here at Berkeley High. I mean, it seems like this is something that is always kind of hovering.
What are your guys' views on the topic?
Well, I don't have no problems with like different races, but with interracial relationships, I kind of do. And for myself, I wouldn't be in one because I just wouldn't. I think that there's a lot of, if you're aware of your culture and if you like to identify yourself, right, identify your culture, then you're gonna have a lot of conflicts, not unless one person in the relationship is willing to sell out their culture.
I mean, I'm involved in an interracial relationship, and it's with the white male, but you know, I've been with him for like 2 years, and I have no negative feelings about it because the way we've grown together and learned from each other, and the way he's been able to experience, you know, my culture and been exposed to that, he's really grown as a person himself. You know, I don't see him as a white male that oppressed my people. I just feel like me and him being together, we're just two kids in love, you know? We're just enjoying our lives together and not tripping off all the society's political bullshit.
You're not as active with your race because you are with a different person from a different race.
Is that what you're saying about me, Munchie? Is that how you see me?
I see a lot of people. Personal opinion. Not personal opinion. Not a personal opinion. Not.
That's hella stupid.
So don't even sweat that. Don't even sweat that.
I just, like, from personal friends who I've had for a long time, you know, who would look at me in a foul way or not want to kick back with me because, you know, because my man is, you know, white. So what, you know? Just, I mean, you know, I'll cry, I'll break down. you know, you're supposed to be my friend. And someone that I know, you know, someone who I've been and sat through, you know, been to marches with, and someone that, you know, I've, you know, been in meetings with for Raza Unida and whatnot, you know. But, and it's being in it, being, you know, me, myself, going out with a white male doesn't take away from me being proud of my race, and it doesn't take away, you know, from me inquiring and reading about my culture and wanting to study my culture and trying to start Chicano Latino studies here at Berkeley High and trying to get, you know, a department and all that. It doesn't take away any of that from me. I'm my own individual person. I'm strong. I know who I am. You know, that will never leave me.
I'm sorry.
Like, what it does, it breaks down communication between us, between the male and female of, you know, of raza, and it shouldn't even be like that, man.
You gonna be outside?
Having like friends who are not black has been an issue at Berkeley High. I've gotten some flack for it. There are people who are like, why do you hang out with white people? You need to have pride in your own culture. I think there's a problem with the black community, which is like this kind of essentialist kind of attitude, which is there's one mold that you have to be. And I'm like, other people stereotype us all the time. Why do we have to stereotype ourselves? And why can't we be the way that we want? Park tends to be a lecture of people, everybody hanging out and everything, because you can't smoke pot on campus. So, which I know sounds really strange, but strikes tend to bring people together at Berkeley High.
My parents want me to go to Berkeley. Here, smoke some more pot, man. Don't go to college. I win. Look, smoke. We all want you to. Peer pressure, peer pressure. That's pretty cool.
I don't want to go to college. I want to go to Italy and meet a hairless Italian man and fall deeply in love with him and divorce him for his money.
We need blue. Nah.
Why is it when someone asks me, what are you? They're always referring to my race, as if that's the thing that I identify myself with. Sometimes I wish I were green. It's my favorite color, you know. Yeah, always green. One day I was walking and this guy screamed out, "Look at that girl, looks like she's a walking identity crisis." I guess I hadn't realized it was so blatantly obvious. I'm human. I'm a girl. I'm loved. I love. I'm me. Faith.
I think the public schools have failed in their mission for diversity. I mean, I surely remember crying when the first buses rolled up and down these hills, you know? We were young teachers then, and it was beautiful to be able to see that happen in a community like this. And 3 years later, the kids were segregated on the playgrounds. 3 years later, the kids at Berkeley High were eating at separate tables. And in the 20 years since, we've not been able to figure out a way to get kids to have lunch together.
Remember that? That was weird. I thought you were going to ask for...
Most of my friends are whites, and I don't have any problems with that. I've grown up in a white society. Why can't I keep on developing in that society? When I get home, I have to speak Chinese to my parents. When I step out the door, I have a different personality. I'm basically Arthur. In the house, I'm called Dot Fun. So basically, when I go to school, I have to know the language, the white language, which is English. And I do athletic sports, which is considered as white, cross country. And I play Frisbee, which is considered to be white.
If you go ask every single one person in this house if they think that you are whitewashed, they will say yes.
But we're not saying that we hate white people. We're not saying we hate them.
I have a lot of white friends, you know. The word people say is sellout. Yeah. You're a sellout. But that's what people think. Okay, you know why? Well, let me tell you why. Okay, I don't know. Just by the way, okay, if I go down the halls of Berkeley High and I see like a group of people, especially an Asian person, hanging out with a bunch of white people,
say whitewash.
Yeah, people will say no, sellout. Like, oh, you know.
I don't understand why do you have to.
But that's just society. You know, that's just
that's your society.
No, that's how society. That's how
whitewash.
That's how the whole Berkeley High is. Maybe.
Yeah, but my relatives, it's hard to hear that from.
I'm afraid of taking my friends to my house because I'm sort of embarrassed to be Chinese in America, but I strongly like my culture and who I am. But it's hard to say that you're American and you're Chinese. They don't mix.
Gong hei bak choy. Bak choy is this. Actually, it's a seaweed, but this is a good omen. It sounds like it. Bak choy. That's why used as very good omen. So everybody bak choy. That means big, lots of money. This is a good luck and good omen. See this? Dry fish. That means long life. All these things over here. See this? Fat pay, okay? Jin Doi, that means good omen, lots of family, prosperous. That's what it's all about right here. This. Chinese history is a long history. I don't think high school have to specially set aside a department study just the Asians. We would rather have the kids to learn more about the general knowledge, like basic mathematics, basic English. How do we compose a good English, a paragraph? A culture is we pass from generation to generation. In order to study it, basically, culture is directly related in a small family unit instead of you have to taught in school.
Well, it could be taught in both positions, at home and at school.
Well, you say be taught. How can you explain to me that red flower or fat choy or fat gold and a piece of dry fish? You explain it to me.
What?
We didn't call you over. You came to us and invaded our life without our authorization. Get measles, chickenpox, smallpox, flu. What is that? We never heard of it. But of course, you civilized people were so compassionate and understanding that you gave us a definition of these terms for the mere price of, our women, our religion, our golden treasures, our culture, our language. And why go on? After all, it was a good deal. But this was such a good deal that it just wasn't enough for your enormous egos. You had to bring African slaves down with you and force them to do the dirty work for you.
I think the first question is, overall, did you feel like yesterday's assembly was a success?
Yes, I think it was a success because it caught my attention because it really talked about how the lives of the American Indians and all of those people, the Mayas and the different kinds of Indians, how they had a life and how the Europeans took it away from them. It's kind of the same way for the African Americans, so it really caught my attention.
Yes.
There are people going on. They take a subject and they start beating the white person. The white man becomes like a figure, like a symbol of something, a symbol of oppression. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. Maybe people in power in Europe, maybe kings and queens, or maybe the traders were bad and they exploited people, but I don't think the majority of white people were bad, and I don't think the majority of the white immigrants should be blamed for something that some people did. I mean, did the majority of people own slaves in the United States? I mean, was it really the majority that did that? Maybe it was some people, and they were wrong, but I don't think that everyone should be labeled for that.
Right here, Pedro.
Yeah, I also had some problems with the assembly. I thought it was kind of exclusive, especially at there was a part where a speaker went up there and said that they have a prophecy that like all the brown and red and yellow people will come together and live in peace, and they didn't mention white in there. And I thought they were kind of being hypocritical, just totally forgetting about the white community.
I hear what you're saying. It almost seems to be a double standard, is what you're saying. They're saying one thing and carrying out another thing. Berkeley High School historically has sort of, and it's something that I'm certainly not in agreement of, has had a history of bashing white people, the Caucasian people, in these assemblies. I'm very proud of who I am. I'm very proud to be a Samoan and a Polynesian. But I felt my heart kind of ached for white people.
I thought it was really beautiful too how, even though it's been 500 years, the tradition keeps going.
Mario Huerta is one of 4 Chicano-Latino teachers hired by Jim Henderson. He also advises La Raza Unida, the Chicano-Latino Students' Union.
And everything we've gone through, all the repression and all the cultural impositions and everything, and things have changed. You know how we had this thing with the jacket? When they didn't print 2 articles that were supposed to be printed, and then we went and got into a big discussion with them about this. So, you know, they were kind of apologetic and everything, but we were saying, look, what needs to happen is that students need to have a voice in the paper, especially students of color, because students of color are not represented in the paper. Because I was saying, we feel like, as Latinos and Chicanos, we should have at least 1 page of the paper for us. And we should write the articles. And we should be able to write them in any language that we want, you know? And they were kind of willing to do that, you know, but let me tell you, there was some resistance.
One thing that we've started now is we've been talking to La Raza Unida in light of some of the things that happened with the last issue, where the page with the articles that were important to them was omitted. And one good thing that came out of the conversation is they've agreed to do a page for the jacket in every issue in which they would have articles covering things from their perspective, maybe have some stuff in Spanish, to bring in more readership and represent the student body more. So they are, in fact, doing a page for this coming issue, and hopefully if we can get...
This coming one?
This coming one. So if we can get more student groups to contribute to the jacket, get more people involved, we can become a better newspaper. So we are trying to do that.
I wanted to know, like, who made the decision that we're going to have this page every single time? Yeah. I was wondering, did they make it or did we make it? And is it their right to have it? Because it should be, like, what we want to do. And I'm not denying that we should have the right to have the page. It's just that I don't think anybody on this staff was asked, do we want to do this?
Our purpose as a paper is to represent Berkeley High School and to get everyone to feel that the student newspaper is the student newspaper. And I think, especially in light of how past efforts haven't worked at all, that this is the most promising way I've seen in a long time. And since it's working, I don't think we should get bogged down on questions of policy.
Okay. They want to have their own page, and they want to have their own writers, but they don't want to be subject to editing, and they don't want to have to stay here on late nights. And I mean, they basically want to be part of Jacket staff without actually ever being here. And I think instead of separating them and having their own page and them going off and doing their own thing, that they should join staff.
And my point was, okay, why don't we have the Jacket staff elected by the student body and make it representative of the student population? Because most of the kids who work in the Jacket don't really represent the student body racially or ethnically. So I want to say, okay, if you want to have a paper, let's elect who is in the paper, because that's the voice of the school. It should not be a club. It should be the voice of the school.
I write for the Jacket. I don't feel like I belong.
but you're here.
But I'm here because I think that my voice has to be heard. But then what about those students who feel like,
but does it have to do? Does it have to do with you being, not white, or does it have to do with just because you don't agree with the opinion?
It's part of because I'm not white, and I think that the paper is too white. And as a person of color, I think it's important that my voice gets heard.
See, that's what I don't understand. If you write something, no matter who the hell you are, and it's a good article, and it's you justify and so on, I think it'll be rejected.
Mr. Huerta said, "We don't need your invitation," in some sassy defensive tone, and it's just so ridiculous. We don't need your invitation. How do people become a part of something? You invite them to. I mean, it's not a become. I mean, an invitation is not necessarily condescending. An invitation can be true and it can be warm, and I think it's ridiculous for him. We don't need your invitation. Well, fine, then start your own paper.
I understand the concerns about diversity and everything, but I think there are already bazillion organizations who are catering to the white population in this school. There's tons of them, just tons. They have incredible support. It just blows my mind. So I think this should be a coalition that specifically is formed to empower students of color, specifically.
A lot of times what happens in multicultural coalitions when white organizations become a part of that is they tend to take over. They tend to, those organizations, for whatever reasons, a lot of times the people in those organizations have a lot more skills, have a lot more experience, have a lot more ability to articulate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
For now, we should, just so that, because right now we're trying to rebuild ourselves, I think we should really focus on people of color only.
We have to be very careful about not perpetuating the same thing that we're working against.
The question I have is whether or not you guys see the potential of whites to be allies in whatever struggles you perceive are ahead.
The way I would like to see this organization work, a white person coming in here would not feel all that comfortable working within that situation. Do you, I think that...
So you don't really think there is a place for whites in this organization?
At this point, yeah.
I had a really interesting talk with what's that guy? Victor Huerta. He thinks that the official language of the United States should be Spanish. I asked him why. He said, well, because there's enough Spanish to start speaking Spanish. And I said, well, what about communication? He said, it doesn't matter. We need our freedom. The conversation kind of ended when he looked at me and he said, you don't have any right to talk because you're a white middle class. I said, how do you make that assumption? He said, well, it's obvious. Look at the way you act and dress. I thought that was really interesting, how hypocritical he is. Because I could have said, well, obviously you're on welfare because you're Mexican. I wonder how he would have taken that. He'd have probably called me a racist. Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
Let's run it. Hey, why don't you guys go and check my car out? Have you seen my car? It's about 7 miles per gallon. Nice old American car, sturdy. Nice big V8. Here it is. Right over here. It's got a few dents. And I got a really great bumper sticker in the back. Check that puppy out. Doesn't mean anything, it's kind of ironic, Me, I almost look like a fascist driving out with a bumper sticker like that.
I'm taking the biology achievement tomorrow and the SAT in June. I think if I don't break like 1350 or so, I think I'll take it over again in the fall. Maybe take a class or something like that. Because I don't think my grades are gonna pull me in anywhere particularly.
I got a lot of shit for taking a class. Yeah, I mean everyone said, you're a rich white boy who took a class, and the SAT is racist. Well, it's like, there's nothing I can do about it. What am I supposed to do? Not take the class, because other people can't do it? I mean, if you have an opportunity, you might as well take it. It's not like, well, I'm not going to drive this car because someone doesn't have the money to buy the car, so someone else is taking the bus. I'm sorry, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it.
Gum and cheese. Can I have some, please? Though it is hard as a rock and smells like shit. I am so hungry I would eat it. though it is stored in warehouses for years, rotting away, taking age. I do not have one green page. My eyes are filled with tears, hearing the cries of my peers blocks away, miles away every day. And you say you get a job? How can I when I get no chance to enhance my mind?
In my poetry class today, I learned that I have not been oppressed. I came to that realization because I am white inside. I have relatives who walked the trail of tears. I have ancestors who died in the Holocaust. My great-great-grandparents were slaves. But now I'm white inside, one of them. How could I have ever imagined that I have been oppressed? I live in the hills and have 2 Mercedes. My parents went to Harvard, and I don't say ain't. So all of my history doesn't count because I'm white inside. My father is part Native American Indian. Both of his grandparents were half Native American Indian, Cherokee and Chickasha. My dad is also part French and part Afro-American. And my mother is Russian Jew.
To what extent do you have to play the game in order to change it? And there's this notion that if you're a little bit black in America, you're black, but if you're a little bit white, you're not white. That's a crazy racist notion.
My basic philosophy about the individual is that they're free to choose. Yes, within a context, but you have to stand up for your freedom. But as an individual, you are free to choose who you want to be.
Well, the hardest part is the essay because I have to pretend I know what I want to do with my life and where my life is headed, and I have no idea. Beyond filling out the applications, I would definitely say that race is probably the second hardest part of this application. Yeah, it was a real conflict for me. My mom, we were just talking about filling out applications, and she said, "Oh, I think I'd probably feel pretty bad about filling out that I was African American and that I was African Indian."
Okay, where you have means taken in Switzerland in French, I would highlight this just a little bit,
Right.
just highlight that.
Okay.
So that they know that this whole 11th grade is Switzerland because they're going to have to pull
My
this
college
out.
counselor kind of brought a whole nother aspect into it because she said, "Faith, you want to go to college, don't you? You can't put this white. You can't put that you're white on your application, Faith. You got to put that you're African American and you got to put that you're American Indian, and you can't put that you're white if you want to get the benefits of affirmative action."
Now you're asking for the EOP program.
Right.
Good. Okay. And we did a little changing there.
We did.
Very good. Very good.
I know she just wants me to get into college, but it's just so frustrating that I felt compelled to do that, and it was kind of a degradation of values, I think, on my part, but I don't know.
When I was doing my college admissions, I had that box to check, what ethnicity and so on you were, just to make sure that, I had some kind of minority background. Instead of putting, just plain white, I put Romanian because I'm half Romanian. I was born in Russia, but my dad's Romanian, and I noticed that had minority status. So hopefully that'll be an extra push for me, See, hopefully I'll get in too.
My girlfriend's been helping me out a lot with the papers right now. Recently, she's been, helping me fill out my applications and stuff like that. And both of us applied to San Francisco State. Hopefully, we'll get in. That's where we want to go, or else, so we wouldn't have to be separated, right? Mathematics. I never had good grades, always F's and D's and stuff. And so I was thinking of going to community college maybe, and then 2 years, then if anything, maybe transfer over.
It's my way or no way, So I would be open to listen to the soldiers, right? The soldiers could be right.
Munchie's college plans are put on hold because of personal problems. He has to make up classes in Berkeley's independent study program in order to graduate.
In Full Metal Jacket, they showed all the training that goes, before the war or whatever, and all the trauma that they go through, They showed the training. I went independent studies because a lot of stuff was happening, in my life, which were complicating my studies, and including my little brother was killed, and I was I couldn't sit down in the classroom. I would get all tense, I don't know, I'd just be thinking of other stuff, whatever. I'll just rewrite this application.
Okay. All right. Tell me what your paper says.
Well, my paper is about mostly the way Camus tried to show that existentialism is valid in everyone's everyday life, but that his choice of a main character in Marisol was futile.
Why are you taking independence studies?
Well, Berkeley High, the campus right now is not safe for me. I've been assaulted a number of times in my 2 years at Berkeley High. I'm a sophomore right now. This last time was very serious. I was hit in the face. I was bleeding out of my nose and mouth. There was a lot of blood. It was a very scary experience. I was taken into the health center. I was in and out of consciousness all day. I began to be assaulted, threatened more often, and it was always the same type of people, but not the same people. It wasn't their friends. It wasn't anybody that they knew. It just happened to be, I just happened to be the target. I don't know, it seems like a racially motivated thing to me, because, solely because it's been this one group who has come against me time and again.
We be in the hallway, I ain't gonna lie. White people probably come walking by and we'll just knock them over, just slap them, just push somebody like one of our friends into him like, Doug, we like push Doug because he bigger than all of us and we know Doug gonna hurt him. So Doug just come at him and just stick him in there.
Why?
Because it's fun and they white
too.
people.
I mean, it's wrong. Of course it's wrong, but I feel, I have so much hatred towards them built up inside of me. I don't put it as hating white people. I just hate for what they did to my race. The way they, just destroyed our race.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you feel, as many generations as you are away from slavery, why do you
I feel I should have hatred towards it?
Why do you feel that you still need to keep saying we are oppressed from slavery? What is it that's happening to you in your life that's making you feel that way? Something at school?
No, that's something at school, but this is from every day, from what I see
like
from every day.
Give me an example.
Every day, slave mentalities, everyday slave mentalities that I see.
One of the things I found that is really successful in dealing with that, that dynamic, these two sides that are almost fighting each other to survive with fear in white America and anger in black America, is letting them talk about it.
It could be like German, Italian, Polish, white people can be anybody,
Okay. This school has got to engage in discussion where kids feel safe and where they're able to learn from each other.
Reason why I hate white people so much, I don't hate all white people because I got a few white friends, but I'm just saying, because like everywhere I go, just because someday I might have braids on, someday I might wear a hat or something, but like, this happened a few weeks ago. Basketball team went out to Concord. We had a basketball game in Concord. We walked to the store, right? And there's a lot of white people. We walk in the store. They checking security, clicking on their camera and stuff. And then we walk outside, and this white lady gonna say, she gonna get out of her car and say, "What gang are you guys from?" We said, "What? What black gang are you guys from?" That's just one reason why I hate white people, because they always got stupid things to say, like black people can't walk nowhere without being in a gang with their friends. So
that's one example of something that really happens to you. Now let's bring it closer to where we are right now. Let's bring it closer to school. Within school, where you are right now, do you feel that same thing? Where?
In a bathroom, like that though. In a bathroom, it said things like white power, KKK. You know what I'm saying, or fuck.
So there are racial things on the walls in the bathrooms.
Hey, but listen, when people be on the slopes, there's security over there, police car parked right there, security right there. But now if you walk over there with a white people, there don't be nobody over there. They'll be over there blowing up shit up over my phone. They be over there blowing up garbage cans, spray painting right there while school going. Everybody looking. They don't even be tripping off that. But as soon as we say like one thing, somebody like, "What you looking at?" Here they come.
So the sixth time that someone's thrown something at me, fifth time during sixth period in the last like 3 weeks. So who's down there? What's going on?
Okay.
Fortunately, I haven't been hurt, but it's a bit distracting.
Okay. You want to spend some time tomorrow?
No, I want it to be taken care of. I mean, is someone on duty down there?
Ask somebody
is
to do
someone
that.
checking up on?
I asked them to do that, and I guess they didn't.
Is anyone following through to see that they're doing it?
No, not in the last couple of days.
I don't know what the answer is. I'm tired of it.
Well, I think locking your door is a good answer at this point.
Well, it didn't work today.
Yeah.
And I find it difficult, Jim, to understand how someone who is as intimately concerned with this campus as you say you are can walk around this school and not think that there are things that are seriously wrong.
I'll give you, and I've said this from the very beginning, we have some problems. And there are issues that we have to continue to work on. But for us to say, and I'll never, that this place has gone downhill discipline-wise over the last 3 years, I'll tell you it's gone uphill.
You do not do hall duty per se, so you don't have to take verbal abuse from kids, whether that verbal abuse comes in the form of some kids saying fuck you, or some person simply dismissing you.
Frankly, I'm pissed off in a very big way about the idea that somebody pushes or hits a teacher and they're not gone the next day. I don't want to ever see that person again. I want it in the press. I want the parents to know.
I don't care who the kid is, how great a kid. When a kid is in a fight and they beat up and they hit a teacher, they need to be expelled. I don't care how great that kid is.
So now I'm suspended and I'm sitting here and I'm supposed to tell you what happened. It's simple. I walked up. I saw a girl that I knew about to get into a fight. Here comes you talking about all this stuff at one time that I can't hear, just that all equals out to I'm not supposed to be here, when I know that I've already made the decision that I'm going to calm her down and make sure she doesn't get into any trouble, especially any fight. Finally, you put your hands on me. That was the first mistake you had. Second, you not only put your hands on me, but you put your hands on me in a way that was threatening, that should have been dealt with in another manner, but because I was in school and under quote-unquote school rules, I'm not supposed to do something, so I had to put down my own values, which is if a man touches me, me and that man are going to have it out in whatever way I feel is necessary.
If a student threatens a faculty member, then that is a suspension.
I did not threaten him. There was nothing that you could say to me or show me to say that I threatened him.
I mean, I'm gonna fuck you up. What is that?
PHUK in my language, all right? If you touch me again is a warning. Go to your English class, he'll tell you that if you touch me again before I'll fuck you up, it becomes a warning. I'll fuck you up is a threat.
Okay. You wanna say something, Dave?
Yeah, quite a bit. I think there's a number of things that are already becoming much clearer to me, and that I'm glad you had the opportunity to say what you did, because first thing I'm seeing is that you have some very strong values, and you believe in them, and you're willing to act on them. For you, if somebody is touching you in a way that's not appropriate for you, it's appropriate to give what I will call a threat. We also have some very strong values here at Berkeley High, and some of them seem to be in conflict with your values. I don't want to have to walk through the hallways here feeling that there are a number of students, or even just one, who might go off on me if I touch them the wrong way.
Well, I don't want to have to walk through this school knowing that a teacher can put his hands on me in any manner that will start a fight on the street if I did not know that man, and know that I can't do anything about it. That's bullshit. How can a person put their hands on you and you can't do shit about it?
You could have asked, who am I and what am I doing there? And I would have quickly answered.
There was no way in that time period to ask either of you, of the two men.
If that were true for you, do you think it could have been true for me?
The rules are laid out there. We'll talk about it, and I'm not going to do anything arbitrary, but I am letting you know that you will receive a suspension if it comes to a point in some place where it looks like that you have stepped over and threatened somebody when there was not when there was a situation that could have been avoided. We can learn from this.
It's your opinion that it was a threat. It's my opinion that it was a warning. But your opinion outweighs my opinion.
Okay, and that I agree with, yes. You're right.
Well, unfortunately,
the administration does make that decision.
All right, well, thank you, Jeff.
What do we got now? Is it 7th period?
Good luck.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. There were just one or two moments when he was a little bit quiet, where I thought maybe something sank in there. But
Hey, you guys.
You want to go somewhere? You want to go to Mr. Bill's? You gonna stop being silly and go to class or what? Sometimes I wonder why is it the black males? It bothers me. Let's go to class, fellas. Leave the young ladies alone and go to class.
You got a good teacher here. I like
What else? What else do you do? Come on, tell on yourself while you're here. What else do you do? Let me show you some of his work.
He knew I was doing my homework.
They don't show my work.
This is what I don't understand. An honor roll student goes all the way down. Don't you talk smart to people. An honor roll student drops all the way down. And that's why I'm afraid to send his brother.
They don't show none of my work.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't do that.
This is what Charles.
I didn't do that.
This is what Charles did in class.
That's Bernard writing.
This is what Charles
Bernard
did in
writing.
class. Charles is a very, very bright student who is so angry. But more than anger, what I see in Charles is fear.
Yes.
And that fear is about not really believing he can succeed. He, like many other students, is not sure what succeeding means. Charles is a piece of the future. And if he fails, then this society fails, because for every student that doesn't make it, there's somebody out there to rob you, there's somebody out there to rape you, there's somebody out there that we as working people in the society have to pay for. So these kids that don't graduate don't go away, and until society starts to recognize that, then nothing's going to change. What's your future?
I don't know.
What is your future?
I don't know.
If your future is to go to, how do you go, Charles, if you have Fs?
No, if I have Fs, you don't go.
If Charles didn't want to be successful at something in his life, he wouldn't come to school. You think your mother should just sit back and watch you flunk? What do you want her to do? What do you want her to do?
I want her to stay at home and I'll do better on my own.
And you'll do better on your own?
Yes, I will.
Is that a promise?
Yes, it is.
To who?
To me, her, you, the camera people.
I'll go for that. All right, I'll go for that.
I bet she'd rather go to her job.
I prefer that.
And be happy that you're in class being the man that you want to grow to be, as opposed to having to come babysit you.
School Colors will be right back. Go back to high school with Frontline.
Evaluation, hush! Listen! If you're behind...
Molly Gerstein, one of the 59 teachers hired by Jim Henderson, is part of a controversial new academic program. For the first time, 9th grade students of widely varying abilities are put together into the same English and history classes. The program is part of a national experiment designed to counter academic and racial segregation and is called detracking, or heterogeneous grouping.
You do not bounce the ball in here. It's already nuts enough. Sit your butt down. Sit down. If I teach a heterogeneous classroom where these kids are brought in to be part of the group, they're going to do a hell of a lot better than if you segregate them. Tell them that they're stupid. Put them in a lower level. I mean, and that's effectively what you're doing if you put them in a lower level, is saying you can't hack it in the real world. What chapter are you up to?
What chapter was that?
What chapter in Brave New World are you up to?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Tell me what's going on.
Nothing going on with me. Kirsten.
Give me these. Give them to me.
Oh, these are my friends.
Just hand them to me. I'll give them back. What are you doing with these?
Shoot with them.
Yeah, I know. So have you read last night? Did you take a book home and read? Okay. All right. Then this is what we're going to do. First of all, you have to say to me, I'm going to be able to make this up. Say it.
I'm gonna be able to make this up.
I'm going to try.
I'm gonna try.
Yes, you are. And then you're going to do it. And guess what the deal is? When you make it up, you get the dice back.
Those are my dice stuff.
That's right. You gotta make up the work. It's blackmail. I lied. Isn't that mean?
Miss Gersten, I gotta come back with dice.
Go get yourself a book. You come back with the book, and we're gonna figure out what chapter you're on. Then we're gonna give you assignments, and then you're gonna do them. And you're gonna do enough each day so you can handle it. So let me ask you this. What happened as an effect? And you must make a kid believe that they can do anything in order for them to achieve. Read it. You won't do that if you put them in a track. You take the gas right out of them.
There's an estimate that 10 million people here.
Harry's not dumb. Harry just needs extra time.
Africa controls at least 20% of the whole world's natural resources. This makes Africa a very key place to set up forced labor camps, have bad working conditions, to exploit. Yes.
Camilo is really smart. Camilo slides by. Camilo doesn't know how to challenge himself. But if you have a research project like this one that we just did, he's responsible for research and critical thinking and working with others, which he's not so good at. And that is where you get Camilo to challenge himself and work hard. Because he had to try really hard to work with Johari, not be arrogant, and also pull him in. And he did it.
Wrote a little thing about South Africa on the side. I'll just read it. South African colors, whites and Asians, are divided into their own areas. Whites in South Africa are reserved 87% of the land. Africans only have 13% of it. And that's in the poorest areas like Bandstand.
Now what happens? What's the effect?
The effect sometimes is that the white settlers...
Johari learned something and therefore was able to tell people what he learned. He was really able to say, this is going on in this part of the world, this is the problem, this is what's happening, and this is why, and this is what I think we should do to solve it. He contributed. So when people say to me, I'm worried that my kid isn't going to be challenged in a heterogeneous classroom, my response is, how can they not be? Because what we're doing is not easy. What we're doing is challenging kids to really look within themselves and to grow.
This article has some very strange facts from the beginning. But what you're going to do is you're going to rewrite at least...
David Bai also teaches a D-track English class, but is more skeptical of the program.
You can have different groups working on different projects. Maybe the enrichment, kids are doing one thing, and the kids who are just getting their basic skills are doing another activity. But that's basically segregation within the classroom. I don't see that as accomplishing the goal of integration.
That's a rarely heard of school, right?
I've heard the higher skill kids complain more than once. We're tired of being the teachers. We want to learn. We want you to be our teacher. So to keep all of the different students engaged, I as a teacher would often have to come in with 3 or 4 different lesson plans. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not willing to do that every day. I'm a public high school teacher. I don't think I'm supposed to be a saint or a martyr. I want to be a good teacher, but I think that most days I should have to come up with 1 lesson plan.
I'm sure there's a lot of positive comments, but the experience for my daughter has been 100% negative. And she's been in Berkeley schools since kindergarten and has always been in heterogeneous classes. But as she gets older, the disruptive students, the difference between the students who are serious and trying to learn and those that are not trying to learn becomes greater. And now in her English history core classes, it's the worst. She has a large contingent of disruptive students, and her English teacher in particular cannot handle them, and she feels she's learned nothing this year.
I mean, I can give you anecdotes like about program curriculum from history where they cover nationalism, imperialism, and feminism. And this is the period where they have Renaissance, they are supposed to have Renaissance, they are supposed to have Enlightenment, they are supposed to have Industrial Revolution. It does not exist. They are getting handouts on feminism issues. When I asked my son what Michelangelo has done, he didn't know, but he knew that Michelangelo was a gay. So, I mean, and I can, give you dozens and dozens examples like that.
I want to say that I almost view it from another perspective. Maybe if he didn't have the 4 best teachers in this school this year, he did have a classroom full of kids that taught him something. So I don't know whether that's an unpopular opinion, but it's one that I have.
Nice to see you. For Jim Henderson, the parents' concerns are a political problem. The controversy over detracking comes amidst growing fears about safety in the school.
But I have a concern, and that is about the safety.
The thing that I feel very strongly about in trying to convince them is that it goes back to detracking or all of our efforts to make this a successful school for all kids.
We're in a society now where...
In the same vein they fear for safety, the kids that are acting out are acting out because of their anger.
We have a responsibility. This has to be safe.
My goal is to get the successful group of parents and students here to start to realize that once we upgrade the education we give to kids who are unsuccessful, safety will not be our major problem.
And Berkeley High is a great high school because it has not held back strong students from moving ahead quickly, where the same person who cannot write a complete sentence is there with somebody who has poetic skills.
Multicultural issues are not the same thing, and I think it's a tremendous mistake to try to run those together.
Fast track has nothing to do with multicultural.
Right, so this is the multicultural coordinator and the plan.
It's the white track. I mean, if you look at the statistics, who's on the fast track?
I don't think anybody should be apologizing for whatever color shows up in the fast track, as long as there's access.
It's not a matter of showing up, and there isn't any access. And you just made some really dangerous assumptions in what you said. What I just heard you say was that somebody who can't put together a sentence shouldn't be in the same class as somebody who has poetic skills.
No, I do feel that way. That if you don't segregate children by ability, you're going to dilute the result to such an extent that you're going to have a soup that tastes foul to everyone and where nobody is motivated.
How can they move up to the higher track? If they're kicked out, then they cannot learn.
Cruel. And there are people who are cut, just like a football team.
And how do they switch? How do they switch to the higher track?
If
they're immediately cut.
All winners in our society.
But then if
it's something we're not willing to face.
But how can
this work if people can't switch? I'm just really sick to death of this intellectualizing. While students are dropping out, children of color are committing suicide. The highest dropout rate in the country is with students of color. The D and F rate in this school among students of color is a national scandal.
Well, if you're feeling guilty about it, make a concrete suggestion.
Excuse me, I'm not feeling guilty about anything. I'm not feeling guilty. I'm presenting a problem while you're intellectualizing. And that just really makes me sick. And this is the end of that discussion.
Was it well organized?
It was all right.
By the end of the first year of detracking, the number of freshmen receiving a D or F in English and history was cut in half. Still, the idea of extending the program into the 10th grade has met with great resistance.
When I try to bring this type of thinking, detracking the school, doing things differently, looking at kids in a different way, looking at the way you work in a completely different way, I definitely feel like I hit a wall. I hit a pretty big wall.
If I'm looking from this side,
D is cordial. My own personal belief is that for them to say, let us untrack the classes, is a political statement and not a panacea, because integration by itself was not the problem. Untracking the classes is not going to be the solution. They can't run around with a political bandwagon saying, or waving this flag saying, untrack the classes, and as soon as you get this, we're going to achieve everything possible. It is not going to work.
American schools need to wake up. If the goal is successful integration, if that's the goal, if we're working still towards successful integration, then let's do it in a way that establishes an equality between people, where people's experiences, cultures, are equally appreciated, equally emphasized, and seen as equally significant and important. But as long as they're not seen that way, integration will not be successful.
Well, I think if the public schools fail at integration, and I think in many ways we are failing at integration, I mean, I think that would be my assessment at this point, it will create an increased crisis of racial conflict, of separation of people of different cultures in our society that will plague us and in some cases paralyze us. If our struggle to make diversity our strength does not succeed, we face not only as a school, but we face as a nation, I think, a very, very serious future.
Corporate America requires a compromise from nearly every person that works there. If someone is not willing to dress the part, it's not something that you can force them to do. Wear a tie. Wear a tie. You will be one of 10 people being interviewed, and you may be the only one with the tie on. And if you are, that's one more little point for you in the ultimate hiring decision. Dress like you were going to church with your boyfriend or girlfriend's grandmother. If you're going to make a mistake on overdressing. Don't, whatever you do, don't show up in sneakers and, you know, the hood and the hat and all that. Don't do it. The message you're giving is, I am willing to make the adjustments that are required to work for you. It's a compromise in some ways. Go ahead.
So what about the expression of culture? What if somebody has a certain culture that they love and that they feel is them? Should they have to change their whole appearance and put their culture in the background just in order to get this job?
It's a question you have to answer personally. The only thing that is out of the question is sloppy, bad attitude, an attitude with your appearance, with your walk, with your language, which is, I don't need you. That's what's out of the question. Anything else goes. This is America after all. It is, it still is. In parts of the country, it still is.
I just don't want to change for the situation.
You don't want to change because this isn't you.
Yeah,
right?
If I do that, that's not me.
It's not you.
I will do like that just for you. I'll do like that. And then when you start talking to Jemima,
you know what? Put it down. Keep it down all the time.
Okay.
I don't know. No, I really. You've got such a good-looking face.
Okay.
Huh? I'd really like to see your eyes. Can you?
I'm telling you, man, I'm gonna do this. Don't chirp, because Russ, I'm gonna do that. Don't chirp.
All right. Okay. Jeff, you've got lots and lots of goals and lots of dreams, and they'll be accomplished as long as there's a plan, you know, to how you get it. You just can't whatever happens. So do you have that plan written, or is it just in your head?
It really doesn't need to be written out, I don't think. I want to be able to produce my own movie. And the music, I want to do the music shawty. And
explain that to me, since I really don't know what that means.
Pretty much producing, and my ultimate goal is to have my own record company and distribution company. It's just a matter of what order drops first, but it'll all be accomplished.
As far as school is concerned, I've always had problems winning. Academically, I've always been able to achieve. It's just you start to come in contact with teachers that don't really care.
I strike at the enemy before he has time to strike back, so there'll be no war of the stars today.
I feel that they should be going for imagination and creativity, because that's the only way things get invented. I mean, if you can imagine it, then there's a possibility that you can do it and that you can make it. But if you don't take time to imagine it, it can never come forth.
You know, we worked well together, did a little fear. I put all the ideas together, put it on edit, and they're about to show it to you. Somebody gonna press play or something. Word.
Fear, 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 fear. I've had a few moments where I've been afraid.
Fear. It enters the mind of nearly every person on this earth. These very halls have been said to cause fear. Why?
Since school itself is a microcosm of society, the fear that is present in the school system is the fear that is present in society itself.
I've heard a lot of stuff about kids getting beaten up after school, you know, like in the G building and stuff. So I don't really go there by myself after school. But other than that, I don't really worry about it because I can defend myself if I have to.
Fear in these halls? As amazing a statement as that is, it has been spread throughout this school that these halls in the G building are in fact dangerous. Dangerous? What do people think is going to happen? Something like,
Open up your locker. You want him to talk to you or something, punk? Open up the locker. Say, punk, open up your locker. You want to say that?
is that what's really going on in some people's minds? Total darkness? Why can't they see any light? Is it because they fear that if they open up their eyes, it will be to a reality that will look something like this?
Hey, homie, you all right? You all right, homie?
Hey, do you want me to call the hospital?
Damn, man, you look fucked, man.
You want me to call the hospital?
You okay? You okay? Hey, what's wrong with you, dude? Why you looking into my mouth?
Why you all blurry? What's the matter? Can you see me? How many fingers am I holding up?
Damn. What happened? You okay? Hey, well, you don't need this chain, do you?
It has been learned that much of the violence on this campus is caused by people coming from other places onto the campus. And I think that's the reason for, you mentioned briefly, you might talk about it a little more, the fence to try and keep people out. If we can do that, I think that will eliminate a lot of the problems.
Yeah, we're real clear that that's where about 70% of our problem comes from, is off-campus non-students. And that's why we feel like the fence is critical to us.
Unless you're dealing with issues such as gathering data as to who was perpetrating these acts and who's the recipient of it, unless you're dealing with issues of race and ethnic-based violence, you're not addressing the issue of violence at Berkeley High, which is endemic to most urban areas.
I have not heard of a student who has been hit, slugged, etc. on this campus who has had it done by a stranger. Yeah. And I'm talking in recent months. And so what we may find that the fence has now made the lunatics stuck in the asylum.
Take the G building situation. The scene showed earlier is an example of the stereotypical hall of the G building, but here's the reality most find.
Hey, yo. Hey, what time is it? Hey, what you tripping off of, man? What you scared of? You afraid of something? You coward.
Why is there so much darkness in people's minds? When will they ever take the time to truly open up their eyes, shake off their frustrations, and slowly but surely get up, and then tackle their truest fear? And what is their truest fear? Then again, what is yours?
Me, they fear me.
I wanted people to look at the fact that lots of things in the school based on fear are being overlooked. Fear is not looked at as the problem, but just as just another thing that happens as a physical reaction to what happens, when actually fear is one of the main roots of the problem.
You can say it is ignorant, but there's a cause for it. I mean, there's a cause and effect happening. I mean, people hear about it happening and, you know, maybe even see their friends get beat up or themselves get beat up, and then they just have the fear that it'll happen to them all the time, and they see someone that fits the stereotype or fits a certain category that they fear.
Fear can cause violence. I mean, when I was a freshman, I was afraid. And I was short and I was afraid. and when I overcame that fear and began to not fear and made the conscious decision that I'm gonna stop altering the way I live my life because of this fear, I stopped getting messed with.
If you look at who's been the biggest gangster in the world, it's been Caucasian males, you know, wiping out populations, genocide, Hitler, Columbus, and the majority of people in jails are black.
Wait a minute, let Leon say something. Leon is talking.
What do you mean?
But I'm talking about
the fact that all these blacks are in jail is whose fault is not their own, but their fault of the society.
There's a situation that's been perpetuated in everybody's minds. My mind, it's the psychological effects of slavery. The legacy of slavery still is with us today.
Yeah, I know you don't agree with this, but are we all Americans?
No.
No? Why?
I don't consider myself.
Why? Look, I'm not even a first generation here, right?
You're only an American outside of
You can have an American mentality.
For me, I'm not an American when I'm in America. I'm not even an American outside of America if I went out. That other people's view, who am I? I'm Jeff.
That's the thing. I look at America differently than that. I don't look at America as like, you know, it's white America. No, it's all of us. And you know, there happened to be slavery at one time.
But all of us don't survive. All of us do not survive successfully in this society. Listen, when the government looks at me, they don't look at me as an American. They look at the Africa in me.
You're still an American. You can't get away from that.
Please don't define. You defined me for too long. I've been a Mexican American, a Hispanic,
I've
a
defined
Latino.
you for too long.
Yes, you just called me an American. Please, I take that as an insult.
But you called him European. I mean, let's not get into a
That's the problem. We don't know each other.
Racism at Berkeley High is a problem that is subverted on the surface, but underneath the surface, the hate, the pain, and the prejudice run very deep. In my conscious mind, I can deal with these problems, but I can't seem to stop the fact that if I walk past a young person of color on an empty street, I get ready to block a punch.
The first skit we're gonna do, we want some people to get loose. We want some actors and actresses to get loose in this two-person skit. And I want Peter to be the street guy though. I want you to act like a G though. I want you to be like that. I want you to be a street guy, and I want Garay to be the advocate.
Am I advocate?
No, you Peter, dude. No, you Peter. You just Peter the cat that's just hard because we be smacking him.
I always dreaded the day when I would actually have to act. I guess I was afraid that they would expect me to be like them. I was afraid that I would be put in a black role, caught in the trap of either being a white fool or a white fool who was trying to be black.
We got a good thing going here. We on our own, and you're gonna throw it away. You're gonna ruin it for both of us. Don't you understand that?
I'm not ruining anything. I'm not stopping nothing. It's just, you know, it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Oh,
You gonna stop?
I am. I swear I'm gonna go to counseling this time. I'm gonna really quit. I swear.
You gonna go to counseling?
Uh-huh.
Then let's go right now.
Okay. We can go right now. I'm gonna change. For real this time. I'm gonna really change.
All right, then.
Okay.
As important as the issue of race is, and I think it's probably the single most important social issue that this country needs to deal with, I'm not sure that the adults in this community deal with it very well. No, let me say that more strongly. The adults in this community do not deal with it well. The kids deal with it better than we do.